Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and today we're finally going to move on from the success of Celtic's midweek fixture. Did I mention that we beat Leipzig 3-1 through the week? I don't know if that came up on the channel, but Celtic actually won in the Champions League. Huge result against a big team, 3-1. That was the score. We're going to move on from it. We've got a few things to talk about today, including some huge news regarding the future of Alister Johnson in a Celtic shirt. So stay with me, pay attention. We're going to try and get through it all as quickly as possible. Aye, smile's still on my face. It's been hard to get rid of it. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. We're trying to get as close as we can to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Let's try and cross that next mark of 47,000 very, very soon. It all comes down to you guys. Go down below, hit those buttons, it's absolutely free. And remember, tonight we will be filming the Select the Thunder as well in the G4 Claim Studio. So if you want to get any questions in, please make sure to head over to the Select the Thunder Twitter account and drop those questions underneath the tweet. Anyway, let's talk about Celtic, shall we? The good news just keeps on coming at Celtic, as today we heard reports that Alister Johnson is set to sign a new contract with Celtic, a bumper extension on top of the deal that he already has, which is more than welcome by me, and I'm pretty sure all of you watching this video as well. Here were the headlines today in the Daily Record. Scott Burns reported this morning that Alister Johnson is on the brink of a bumper Celtic contract as the champions make a breakthrough to reward the star man. He's ready to sign on again. The article says that Celtic are close to agreeing a new contract with Alister Johnson. The Scottish champions have tabled a deal that will hand the 26-year-old a significant increase in salary and will increase the length of his contract beyond his existing deal of the summer of 2027. Record Sport broke the story in September that the Hoops had opened talks with the Canadian international over a new deal, and those discussions have now advanced significantly. Johnston's representative is currently in Scotland just now for talks to finalise the extension. Celtic sources are confident that a deal will be wrapped up very, very quickly. The Canadian international has been a key player for Celtic since he signed in 2022. Huge news coming out today. It looks as though we'll hear that announcement of a new contract for Alister Johnson imminently, which I am so buzzing about. He's someone who I've not got to speak about it a lot on this channel, but somebody that I've been saying to my mates and such, that, and my father, for example, we need to tie him down. A bigger deal, a better deal. To be honest, I would love us to keep Alister Johnson as our starting right back till the day he chucks it. I don't know how many right backs out there are genuinely better than Alister Johnson. Getting this deal sorted out for him is a huge piece of business from the club, and it comes at a vital time. Alister Johnson has already contributed to 8 goals across all competitions this season, including an assist in the Champions League, 4 goals in the Scottish Premiership, which leaves him as one of the top scorers. His contributions and his qualities that he's shown, not only for Celtic, but the Canadian national team as well, at the Copa America, World Cup, etc., will have put him on clubs' radars. There is no doubt in my mind that Alister Johnson is somebody who will be looked at from clubs down south, perhaps in the continent, just like Josip Juranovic was when he was playing very well for Celtic in Croatia, just like Kieran Tierney was when he was playing for very well for Scotland and Celtic. You know, fullbacks, probably one of the toughest areas to get real quality in the modern game, especially with how different fullbacks have been asked to play. As years go on, they become much more influential in the game. Alister Johnson has come into Celtic, and from day dot, from his first appearance, has looked so natural, so ready, both from an attacking point of view and a defensive point of view, to the point where we are talking about him, a lot of Celtic fans talking about him, as the best right back we've had here at the club for the last 10-15 years. He is unbelievable, and I have no doubt in my mind that in January, without a contract extension, clubs would have been circling. There would have been the big boys coming in to maybe look at Alister Johnson as a potential option for their clubs. So to tie him down at a contract at this point for a significant extension beyond the summer of 2027 is really smart business from the club, and really required business from the club. So I'm absolutely delighted by this news. I'd expect the official announcement about this contract to come sometime during the international break. Of course, Celtic play on Sunday against Kilmarnock, then we're into another international break, so somewhere in that 2-week period I would expect to have the official news that he's signed an extension. We'll get all the finalised details, but he deserves every penny more on his wages that he'll possibly get. He deserves every day longer in that contract that he'll possibly get. He has been one of Celtic's top performers for the last year and a half. I think been one of the best performers since Brendan Rodgers came through the door. You know, even when he struggled in that wee period at the start of last season and people were talking about whether or not he'd be good enough, he came out of it a better player. And I think we've really seen the best of Alister Johnson since this season kicked off. So, yeah, huge news, delighted by it. I mean, he's one of my favourite players at the club. He's potentially the next captain at Celtic Football Club as well. We've not even talked about that in this news. So, yeah, great stuff for Alister Johnson. He's not the only person who was mentioned in the article, though. Greg Taylor's name was also mentioned in Scott Burns' article, of course. His Celtic future is in question, as he's in the last year of his contract. Alister Johnson, his isn't up until 2027. Greg Taylor, well, his is up in the summer of 2025. And we've had no word yet on an extension for him. Scott Burns brought him up in his article today, saying that Celtic will also need to sort out the Greg Taylor contract situation. He's been another regular under Brendan Rodgers, and he came back into the team for the game against Leipzig midweek. But there was no word beyond that of whether or not Taylor's name is on the extension list anytime soon. And as we get ever closer to the January window, where Greg Taylor is free to speak to other clubs and leave Celtic on a free transfer come the end of the season, I'm starting to doubt that Greg Taylor is actually going to sign a contract with us. There is still, yes, close to 2 months where he can sort that out before the Bosman rule can start to take effect, but I'm starting to doubt that this is going to happen now, and maybe that's reflected in the fact that Alex Valley is becoming the more preferred option the last few weeks. It was Alex Valley who started in the Cup final, and I know Taylor started midweek, but he was hooked. Valley come on, and a lot of people after it were saying that Valley was maybe the better player. So Greg Taylor's situation's a really weird one right now. I personally would like to see him offered a new contract, and whether or not he decides to take it or not is entirely up to him. I think that Taylor's still a good option to have for his experience now in Europe, for his experience in the big games, challenging for cups and league titles, for the fact that he's Scottish and adds to the homegrown quota for Champions League games. I think that Greg Taylor is a solid option to have at Celtic, but the question is, and I've said this, people have asked me this every single week on the live streams on this channel, what's happening with Greg Taylor's contract? Will he re-sign? Any news on it? Have you heard anything? Every week I say the exact same thing. I think that Greg Taylor will have a bigger say in this than Celtic. I think that Celtic will want to re-sign him. Maybe there's no word of that right now from anywhere, but I don't see why Celtic wouldn't want to re-sign him. But Greg Taylor, on the other hand, he might not like the idea of becoming number 2. He might not like the idea of being a backup at this stage in his career where he has years left to offer. He might see himself as number 1, and he might find himself a move where he remains number 1. And that's where Greg Taylor might end up differing from what Celtic are. So we'll have to wait and see, but no word as of yet in the article today from Scott Burns. Alister Johnson, I know, is a huge one. We just need to wait and see what happens with Taylor. It's funny that we were just talking about Greg Taylor because it's time to talk about another left back who could potentially leave Celtic, and that is of course Alexandre Bernabe, who is on loan enjoying life at Internacional in Brazil right now. He returns to Celtic in just over a month's time when his loan deal expires at the end of December. But will he remain at Celtic? Will he go back to Brazil? Nobody really knows yet. However, Internacional's sporting director has commented on that matter. This is what he said to the club's website, saying he's one of the main players on our team. Everyone knows that it's going to be a difficult negotiation. I can make it clear to the fans that we will make every possible effort to keep him here at the club. It is one of our greatest desires to have Bernabe at the club next season. We are confident in the context. He's happy here. He's important to the squad, and he is having a wonderful time. So that came out about Alexandre Bernabe over the past 24 hours. They are definitely going to move to try and sign him permanently in this January transfer window. However, will Celtic let him go? It's another question. Now, you might be thinking, of course they should let him go. That should happen. But it's not quite as simple as that, because I think Celtic might have him valued a lot higher than what Internacional can afford to pay. Shout out to Everything Celtic on Twitter who raised this really good point that International have only ever paid the 3.75 million fee that Celtic paid for Bernabei 6 times in their history. So 6 times in a very long history of the club, one of the top teams in Brazil, of course, and they've only paid a fee of £3.75 million on 6 separate occasions, which leaves Alexander Bernabei in a very difficult place, because Celtic will want to recoup every single penny that they spent, which was £3.75 million. On top of that, Celtic will want to make profit, because at the end of the day, football is a business. Now, some people might be just saying, just let him go, just take what you can get and let him go and get him off the books. That is not how Celtic have ran as a football club, as a business, for the last 20, 30 years, since Fergus McCann took over, since the running of the club went a lot more smoothly, since Peter Lawwell became CEO and now chairman. We don't operate like that. Celtic don't just give away freebies, and they will want their money back plus profit. This is a guy who's now in demand, technically. Believe it or not, Alexandre Bernabei, one of the worst fullbacks I've seen at Celtic, is an in-demand player. The sporting director of Internacional has been on the record publicly numbers of times now talking about how much he wants to sign him, which means Celtic can really ask for whatever they want, and if Internacional can't afford to pay it, then they'll wait for the next suitor to come along. So it's a really weird one that Bernabei now finds himself in. There was rumours going about on social media last week that Celtic were going to ask for £8 million for Alexandre Bernabei. They were rumours. I don't exactly know where they spawned from. I don't know if it was a random page that just pulled it out of the thin air. Celtic aren't going to ask for £8 million for Alexandre Bernabei. That's a bit much. That's too extreme, and I can guarantee you right now that Celtic will not go there. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't be surprised if Celtic ask for around £5 million. Look what happened with O, for example. We managed to sell O for a lot of money that included profit on what we paid when he barely kicked a ball at Celtic. And a lot of times when O played, he looked as though he couldn't kick his own arse. But somehow, we still made profit on him. That's the kind of thing that Celtic are going to look to do. So I think there might be something in the middle ground there, £4, £5, £6 million that Celtic maybe try and initially look for. Whether or not Internacional can push the boat that far, completely different story. But Celtic will wait. Celtic will keep him waiting there. Who knows, maybe they'll loan him out somewhere again. But he'll want to go. I'm sure he will talk to the club about it, and they'll try and sort something out. But it's a bit of a sticky situation. What I will say is, if we do manage to make profit on him, and if we can somehow sponge £5 million, say, out of Internacional for Alexandre Bernabei, it's a remarkable bit of business from Celtic, considering, I'll use this phrase again, he looked as though he couldn't kick his own arse when he played for us. I thought he was somebody who, over time, would end up just saying out his contract here at Celtic, or we'd just have to sell for a fraction of what we bought him for. But fair play to him. He obviously is just a much better player in the continent of South America, and a lot of times, I mean, I can count on one hand the amount of South Americans that have came to Celtic and actually done well. South Americans, Central Americans, whatever. It's a really tough change coming from a place like Argentina, Brazil, to then Glasgow. Very different for so many different reasons. So, fair play to him. Hopefully we hear more coming up to January, but still a month or so away. And that is it for today. If you've enjoyed, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. This video has went on a lot longer than I was intending on, so I'm going to wrap it up. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow on the channel for the Celtic the Thunder, so check that out when it goes live. But until then, I'll see you all next time.